right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:06. Can we have a roll call, please, Ms. Emery? When you get your mic on.
Member Ash.
Here.
Member Merriam.
Here.
Vice President Dice.
Here.
President Affelt.
Present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any changes to the agenda?
Good evening. Yes, we do. We'd like to pull and remove item G4. We're going to reschedule that based on the presenter's schedule.
Okay. Any objections to removing item G4? Okay, hearing none, adopted by acclamation. Now is the time for public comment on any items not on the agenda. I think many of you are here tonight on the action item regarding classified reductions. This is not the time for that. But if you have any other comments on any items not on the agenda, this is the time for public comment. Please identify yourself.
No, Brown Act provides that people don't have to identify themselves.
Or not, as you please.
That's correct. The Brown Act says that anybody that comes up to speak does not have to identify themselves, just so you know that. So Mr. Affeld is incorrect when or I should say he misspoke when he asked me to identify myself. So I was at the last, I'm a parent of a child in the district. At the last meeting, I was pretty astounded to hear Mr. Affeld, the board president, say essentially that there's no reason for the public to bother coming or to make comments because their minds have been made up, or his mind at least, with respect to the issue that we were talking about at the last meeting, which was the closing of Anna Yates Elementary School. Mr. Affeld told everybody before the presentation was made that, quote, that bell has already been rung. So there's really no reason for parents to speak, only insofar that the Constitution or the Brown Act provides that we are allowed to speak. So Mr. Affeld will allow us to speak, but he's not going to listen to us. That's what he told us at the last meeting. And to the extent that the board members, with the exception of Member Pats, agree with him, I will say this, Mr. Affeld, at least, I respect your honesty here. You're not listening to the parents and you don't care what we have to say. Your minds have already been made up. But I do think you should tell us ahead of time which bells have already been rung. Like, I think what you should do is at the beginning of each meeting, like go through, like item G1, that bell's been rung, you can announce if you've already made up your mind. So we know, don't have to waste our time. Just G2, that bell's already been rung. G2, you could say that bell's already been rung. So then we all know not to, then we just leave and go back and take care of our children. If there's a bell that hasn't been rung, maybe you could tell that at the beginning of the meeting, and then people that want to speak on that item could, I guess, wait through the whole meeting. Or we could ask you if you could move that item up, but you would say no to that because last meeting you said no to a whole room full of parents who wanted to have an agenda item moved up. So you could continue with that sort of hubris, I suppose, and arrogance. But I do think you should, as a courtesy to the people that come here to the school board meetings, when the bell has already been rung and you've already made up your mind, I think you should tell us. I mean, it's just so we don't have to waste our time. That's a request. Could you please do that in the future? Unfortunately, I have to take care of my child tonight, so I can't wait for item G2, and I'd like to speak to that tonight. And I don't know if the bell's been rung on that or not. I presume it has. But kudos to the school district for at least changing the the definition of when they lay off people. They used to call it PKS, particular kinds of staff reductions, PKS reductions. Now they're calling it classified reduction or continuance of services. So kudos to that. I mean, at least so it's less obfuscation, and so in that regard, I praise you for that. They got rid of the PKS reduction, so good on you for that. But
Your time's up, Mr. Donahue.
Thank you.
And you're speaking on an item that comes later in the night, so
Well-
if you could wrap up your comments, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
okay, well, I can't speak on that item later because I have to leave, and I don't know if the bell's been rung on that as well. You didn't tell me, but I do want to say that we can't cut our way to excellence here at the district, even though Mr. Rubio has sort of intimated that's the direction we're going to go. We're cutting our way to excellence. I say no, you can't do that. Excellence costs money. Good things cost money in the world, and bad things, cheap things, well, they're less expensive. And so what we need to do is increase enrollment to increase revenue. We got to stop trying to cut our way to excellence. Doesn't work. So I have to leave, but maybe later I can find out if the bell has already been rung on that subject, as characterized by Mr. Affelt. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Don't waste your time with commenting. The bell's already been rung. You might be wasting your time.
Don't worry about it, I got this. Hi, my name's Korean Todd, and I am a parent of an Emory High student. I've asked, I guess a couple months ago, I came to a board meeting and I asked about the Emory Ed Fund. Haven't heard anything about it yet. I know Mr. Rubio was looking into it, and I do appreciate that, but the kids are graduating on June 15th. And I know that other classes were able to get some type of funding or scholarships that were going to follow them on to whatever college they were going to. And I'm just a little bit concerned about that, because where did it go? What happened to it? And what other fundings do we not have access to anymore? So I know that before, I'm not sure if it was the president, but he said that you couldn't respond to the question, but when do I get the answer, and how soon can I know something about the Emory Ed Fund? Somebody?
If you just email me tomorrow, I can get you an answer.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
That sounds great.
Okay.
The other thing is, I do know that there were some changes, and I know we can't really talk about it, but I just want to say, it is important that we make changes, and I applaud changes. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If you can put it back in the holder, that'd be great. Any other public comment on items not on the agenda? Okay, do we have a CSEA report?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marsha Parham, and I'm the president of the Emery Chapter 559 CSCA. I'm here tonight to speak against the potential elimination of layoffs of 7 staff members. I would also like to remind the board and to be aware, make the board aware of the importance and the need of these positions and the work that the staff members do on a daily basis. There are not enough people who will remain to take care of the work that the staff who are being laid off will do. The positions that are being considered for elimination are instructional aid, physical education, instructional aid, regular education, and special education. The registrar and data coordinator, office manager, after-school program coordinator, and the fiscal service specialist. I'd like to speak a little bit about each position. The instructional aid physical education, that position is currently held by Ms. Pamela Hessel. and she's been with the district for over 16 years. We've used Ms. Hessel over the past few years to help with crossing, yard duty, coverage in classroom, including prep time, collaboration time, and taking classes when no subs are available. The certified teachers do use her and will need her support. Some of the other responsibilities that she has are assisting students on the schoolyard, on the playground. She performs, helps with PE, yard supervision. She's in charge of the peacemakers. She provides first aid to during recess, because we have quite a bit of that during recess. And she also helps with discipline on the yard and making sure that the students are safe on the yard. The next position is the instructional assistant, regular education and special education. And that position is currently being held by two staff members, Mrs. Saini and Mrs. Paha. And they've both been with the district for about over 15 years. And these employees support the ELD students, tutorials in small group. They help the ELD students with their classwork, and also the ELD parents. The ELD assistant supports students who are eager to learn but need the support. And in so many cases, these students, the support that they're receiving helps them achieve higher goals. We have many ELD students who remain with Emory Unified to graduate and go on to college. Other responsibilities or tasks that the two staff performs are translating of report cards and notices to parents, help parents understand the report cards, help with homework and tutoring via the phone when parents call and students need the support, help with translation during conference calls. In emergency situations when we don't have a teacher, they're more than willing and happy to help us out and go and sub in the classrooms. They speak multiple languages. And every morning they're in the lunchroom for breakfast, monitoring the kids and cleaning up once the kids go back to class. So in the morning, the first half of the day, they provide services in the classroom for the kinder through first grade. They pull out small group in the classroom and sometimes out of the classroom. Then they have lunch duties with the kids on the yard for the kinder and first graders, so for about 40 minutes. And then in the afternoon, they spend time with the second through fifth graders, providing classroom support. The next position I would like to discuss is the registrar and data coordinator. And this position is held by Ms. Valerie Walker, and she's been with the district for over 15 years. How will we operate the high school without a registrar? That is very important. Tracking where we are going, where we are and where we're going. The personnel left will not be able to do it all. Where will the work go? We have attendance, registering students, maintaining files, and the list goes on of what this person is responsible for. Who will take care of the high school enrollment? Ms. Walker is also responsible for creating, entering, updating, and maintaining database records for all the students. She is in charge of the attendance. If students are not attending school the way they're supposed to, she's in charge of SART and contacting parents to make sure that the students come to school in time. The next position I would like to discuss is the office manager. And this position is held by Ms. Jackie Adams, and she's been with the district for over 4 years. This position is very important to the high school students, establishing and continuing to build relationship with the students and with the parents. There are a multitude of duties that the office manager is responsible for. She's responsible for support in the front office, answering the phone, contacting parents, assisting the principal, and just supporting the students and faculty at the high school with the day-to-day work and their day-to-day needs. The next position is the after-school program site coordinator. And this position is held by Ms. Brenda Collins, and she's been with the district for over 11 years. The after-school, this program, without the continuing support, what will happen to the students? The priceless support given to our students for these past years has made a difference in the students' lives. Many have gone on to college and are productive citizens. I can't help but to believe that Ms. Collins has played an active role in our students' life and in their development and their future. After-school programs, community involvement is vital to have a person dedicated to the community outreach. Fundraising for ASB, trips, career day week, graduate night, I can go on, and you have the job description in front of you explaining her position. The last position I would like to discuss is the fiscal service specialist. And this position is held by Ms. Flor Castellanos, and she's been with the district for over 11 years. Some of her critical duties are accounts payable for the whole school district, receives all timesheets every month, reviews them, and makes sure they are sent to ACOE for processing, and when the checks come back, she makes sure that the distributor did the proper sites. And she also takes care of entering all leaves into escape every month and make sure that they are ready for payroll. So she is responsible for our fiscal, making sure that our finances, part of our finances is taken care of. Please think carefully about the work that these employees provide and what it will mean when they are no longer with us. Who will be responsible for the work they are currently doing? How will you ensure there are staff remaining who will be able to see that the daily financial and student data is collected and reported? Who will help children whose English is not their first language? Who will help educate parents? Who will you call? Sorry. Who will take care of regular physical activities for the elementary school students? We urge you to delay taking action on these eliminations until you are sure the district will be able to run without the 7 staff members. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parham. Ms. Gracie. Do we have a report from the ETA? We don't have our student rep with us tonight, so we don't have a student rep report. Superintendent report?
Yes, good evening. I'd like to share a couple things. Oh, actually, I'm just going to share one thing. I had the pleasure of being at USF with Ms. Dunn and Ms. Perkins, our nurse, last evening, and we had a class of college students at USF who just finished an advertising course and whose project for the last semester was to work on creating potential campaigns for us in terms of communication for the ECCL project. and I thought I'd pass some of these down. They came up with some really creative ideas that we're going to follow up on, and it was a real joy seeing these college kids who spend time investigating the area of Emeryville and the ECCL project, and coming up with campaigns that they thought, and communication strategies that they thought made great sense for our upcoming parent outreach for the new project. So I know that enrollment is one of the things we keep talking about, and I just wanted to share that for my report out tonight.
Okay, thank you. Any other report out? Is that it, Superintendent?
No, that's it.
That's
for
it.
tonight. Thank you.
Okay, all right. I do have an item for the President's report out tonight. We did have a very significant conversation last time at our last meeting regarding this future of ECCL and Annie Yates, and we heard from a significant segment of our community with some real serious concerns about whether to co-locate or whether to continue Annie Yates. And I have had some additional conversations with some of those folks and given it some additional thought myself, as I promised I would do, and I know other members of the board promised they would do as well. We have not discussed it as a group. And at the time I did express that it was my understanding that we were so far down the road, months away from moving into the ECCL site, that it was too late to change direction, even if we wanted to. I have since reconsidered, and I've heard testimony from folks, and I think I've changed my mind, and do think it is worth, if we can do it in a civil and open-minded way, it is worth having a conversation about whether we could or should co-locate a K-12 facility at ECCL, or create some other configuration whereby K-3 or K-5 might continue to exist at Annie Yates, either on a temporary or a longer-term basis. There are a number of questions that possibility raises. First off, what, if any, additional cost would that incur for the district? We are not in a position where we can incur significant additional costs very easily. What is the impact on the level of service that we can provide to our students? The theory of a K-12 co-location is to be able to provide wraparound services with a library, with our food services, with our school-based health center, with our wellness center, with our rec center. How well could we continue to provide all those services if we're on two different campuses? I think that's a significant question for me. It also was evident to me from some of the conversation that new people have come into the district, new parents, and they're not familiar with the design of the ECCL site, the separation between the campuses, the space available. And I think that there are the benefits, at least according to research or other experience in the Bay Area, of co-locating facilities. So I think there's some additional questions and information that would benefit the additional conversation with the community. There are other questions, and I don't have all of them, but what I do intend to put on the agenda at the next board meeting is a discussion item with the rest of the board to identify what the questions are, and to propose a series of study sessions in which we as a community have a conversation about co-location or how we would proceed if we separated our facilities, and what's the best for our students, what's the best for our community, what's the best opportunities for enrollment and growth going forward. I'm not interested in having a debate about the past or what a past board of a different configuration of 5 people did or didn't do, or why we're here. And I'm not interested in a political spectacle. And if that's where this is going to go, I think the rest of the board and I don't have an interest in having that conversation. I am interested in seeing if there is a way to have a productive civic conversation and come to a community consensus. Not everyone is going to agree with anything we do, but a community consensus of what is the best way to move forward together. So that is my report. I do plan to put that discussion item on the agenda, and we'll see where that goes at our next meeting.
May I just add one thing for the board? I presented some numbers at the last meeting, and those numbers I presented did not include any heavy analysis of different configurations between one site versus the other. So I appreciate the time that we can have and staff can have to do a better analysis of that. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay, then. No, we don't have public comment on items. It's not an agenda item for comment. It's a report. Mr. Donahue, I know you want to. No, I won't, because you do this every week, and you're the only person, and it is not a proper item for public comment. You had the public comment period, and then we're going to have action items, and you can comment on those. We're moving on to F1, which is, and 2. Does anyone wish to pull warrants or minutes from the consent calendar?
I'd like to pull the minutes.
Okay, we'll pull the minutes. Warrants, do we have a motion to adopt warrants?
So moved.
Seconded. Roll call, please. Yeah, I did second it. Is there any discussion on the warrants? Okay.
I'd like to make a quick comment on the warrants.
Okay.
I like the new format. Thank you for itemizing. I think that's a much better way to do it. Save.
Yes.
Forgive me if I don't get this right, but I was looking over the minutes on the warrant section from last time, and I don't think it captures the comment I made about Townsend, Public Affairs, and the sort of board. So I just would like to have that in there, that it's a concern that we're spending $60,000 a year on Townsend, and I think we had some comments on that. So I'd like that to be reflected in the minutes if possible.
Any objection to that? Assume none? Okay. With that amendment, do we have a motion to adopt the minutes of our last meeting?
So moved.
I'll second. I'll second.
Okay, we've had that motion seconded, and since we have discussed that as a separate item, you may have public comment on that, Mr. Donahue.
$60,000 spent on Townsend. That's pretty illuminating for a district that's, we're getting ready to cut essential staff. We're cutting our way to excellence, and we're spending $60,000 on Townsend. That's interesting. Tonight here, we heard something pretty amazing, really. We were told by the board president that, in fact, the bell has been now unrung with regard to the Center Community Life and Saving Annie Yates Elementary School. And Mr. Affelt has graciously told us that he will now allow us to comment at a future meeting, so parents can now actually talk about the possibility of not closing Annie Yates. So Mr. Affelt has decided, he's changed his mind, he's going to allow us to have our say. So kudos for that. But how do we know that, in fact, the bell, in fact, actually has been rung, and this is just a ruse? You know, because I understand you took some heat for having, you know, in a moment of honesty, told us all that you'd already made up your mind. Bell has been rung. So now, facing the heat, you're now telling us the bell has been unrung, and you are willing to hear comments and haven't made up your mind. You know, you don't have a lot of credibility on this, Mr. Affelt. I'm sorry. You know, once you've told us the bell has been rung, that's kind of a, you know, that's it. You've sort of crossed the Rubicon there. Also, Mr. Affelt made reference to he will not allow political spectacle when we talk about possibility of saving Annie Yates Elementary School for our children. And to that I say, well, you know, one man's political spectacle is another man's passionate plea to save his daughter's school, perhaps. So who's going to determine what political spectacle is? And the answer is Mr. Affelt's going to tell us what it is. And so, you know, that's just more of bell ringing there, it sounds like to me. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now moving on to the action items for the night. Oh, we need a roll.
We need a
Okay.
vote.
You're right. We skipped that. Can we have a roll call on our minutes?
Member Ash.
Yes.
Member Merriam.
Yes.
Member Pats.
Yes.
Vice President Dice.
Yes.
President Affelt.
Yes.
The motion has passed by unanimous vote.
Okay. Now we're on to the action items. Superintendent?
Good evening. The purpose of this item is to give an estimate of the number of California Commission on Teacher Credentialing permits that may need to be needed for the current and new teachers for the upcoming school year.
This is a document that comes through annually. It starts with the County Office of Education reminding districts to file for the declaration of need should the need arise to have to file for an emergency credential, such as we may hire someone from out of state who has not yet taken the competency exam, or they may not have the CLAD. So we sometimes need a year or so for them to get, well, not a year or so, but we need that year for them to file and get their CLAD.
Could you speak into the mic, please?
Are there any questions?
Do you have any questions, board members? We have, I think, one intern currently. Is that correct?
One this year.
Do we have any other current staff on any of these limited assignment or emergency CLAD or other non-fully credentialed teachers?
This year we have one intern, and we have one individual who has a general limited assignment permit for science. But because these credentials, even the internship credential and this GLAP, they're issued by the commission, so they are
They're
credentials.
lawfully authorized.
Yes.
It's not disputing that.
I just heard,
want to know.
I just want somebody here that not fully credentialed, and I was going, oops.
Yeah.
So they are.
Fully credentialed means not a preliminary or professional clear, meaning they've completed their training,
Right.
but for perhaps the induction they get once they So two, we have two.
Just to,
And are we anticipating that we'll be 100% fully
We're-
credentialed within, a year or two?
we hope to. The two that we have this year are in science, which is a hard-to-fill area everywhere. So it was not our intention, but it just so happened to be that one was an intern and one filed for the GLAP. Again, coming out for next year, even with the signing bonuses for science and math, candidates are interviewing. So our hope is that we will not need to rely on the declaration of need. We will not need to rely on any emergency or intern credentials this year. That is always our hope, and it's always our effort not to go that route.
Which is good to hear, and we've generally lived up to that recently, though the number of teachers in credential programs and getting credentials is dropping precipitously in the state. We've gone from about 30 or 40,000 to 11,000, I think, getting credentials in most recent data, and shortages are starting to appear again. So I understand that we need to have this on file, and if we don't even have it on file, then we can't fulfill any of these short-term emergency needs that might pop up.
If they come up correct, we will not be able to.
But it
without
is,
delay.
it is incumbent on us to work hard to make sure that we're not taking advantage of the easy out, that we are recruiting and trying to get fully prepared. So, and I know
Absolutely.
we're looking at some new science hires, is that right this
We're
year?
looking.
And-
We're looking at some.
And I can add, just so you know, that it's, we're making every effort to find fully credentialed teachers, regardless of the subject area. I will tell you that although we've had the single subject science position posted for about 2 weeks, I believe we've only had 2 applicants so far. I think that's the middle school one I'm thinking of, Ms. Farrell. I can't recall if it was 1 or 2, but so there hasn't been, and we're getting more recipients so far for the single subject math. I don't know if science is going to be harder for us, but we are making every effort.
Okay, and have we announced, as Ms. Harrell alluded to, the bonuses?
It's part of the online job description.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that we're making efforts, and I hope we'll do everything we can to make sure we're hiring fully credentialed teachers. Any other questions or comments on this item? Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comment on this item? Okay. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve the declaration of, kill the name,
Declaration of need. for
excuse
fully
me,
qualified teachers.
thank you, declaration of need.
I'll second.
We have a roll call, please.
Member Ash?
Yes.
Member Merriam?
Yes.
Member Pats?
Yes.
Vice President Dice?
Yes.
President Affelt?
Yes. The next item, Superintendent, would you like to introduce?
Yes, thank
please?
you. Good evening again. The purpose of this item is to provide notice of classified layoffs not later than 60 days prior to the effective date of the layoff. I might add that I know this is a difficult item for everybody, and more difficult for the employees involved. And at the same time, I also know that it's critical that we make these changes in order to ensure that we can be fiscally headed down the strongest road possible right now. And as you will see in the item following this, Ms. Sue's analysis will be based on these recommendations.
I think we have many folks here for public comment on this item, so why don't we turn to public comment? Yes.
So, good evening. I'm Kathy Rollins, and I'm a staff person for the California School Employees Association. And I have the honor of representing the classified employees in this district, though it's interesting being here when we're looking at you're eliminating 30% of the classified staff. The week before Classified Employee Appreciation Week, and having guiding principles of professional expectations and a sense of family. We know that this is a very difficult financial and in terms of educational accomplishment time for this district, but the importance of the positions that are being recommended for elimination, we don't understand how the district will be able to fulfill your fiduciary and other responsibilities and eliminate these positions. So, for example, in this district, our understanding is you have 2 employees who handle finances. You have 1 administrator and 1 classified person. That classified person is recommended for elimination. So to us, that means you're going to take all of the payroll, benefits, accounts, and all those kinds of things and put that on someone else in the district to do, when this has been a district that in the past has had to have state assistance dealing with financial things. So how is it possible that one person can do everything financial for this district? It's hard enough to imagine it with just 2 people, but there is no other person that this could be given to unless it's somebody who is an administrative level, which means you're transferring the work to someone who makes more money to do the work that we get paid less money to do. And for the secondary level office manager, somehow you have someone who spends 8 hours a day servicing the principal and the faculty and staff at that school and is responsible for the phones and the medical and things and all of that. All of a sudden there's going to be someone who has the room to take on 8 hours of doing that, where right now each school typically at least will have a principal, a school secretary, and then teachers. We're saying we don't need a school secretary or here called an office manager to do the job. The same kind of thing for the registrar. There's 1 person doing the entire district. And then, for example, the instructional assistant PE, for years, that's the 1 person that's been doing that for the elementary school students, not the only classified, the only person, period. And so you're now saying there will be no one unless you have someone that you bring on permanently, I guess at a certificated level, to do that. And then last but not least, we have the instructional assistants who've played such a big part at Anna Yates and what it will mean for them to no longer be there. When you look at their years of service here, not to mention that there are many years being certified teachers in a different country, the loss that would mean. But the loss to a community where you have a number of people coming in who English isn't their first language, who are immigrants and need to be able to relate to people who can assist them and doing the best that they can and get the most that they can for their children out of the schools. So it's just unimaginable that this district can function without these positions. And so we're told it's due to finances. But when we look at what's been provided tonight, there's no financial amount even identified here as to what you expect to gain from the elimination of these positions. And there isn't something that at least to the lay person is identifiable as to how you're going to make up for some of these services, at least, that you would think would be required for a normal district. So we urge you to re-examine this list of positions and consider what actually can be done if you want to continue to consider yourself a viable district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rollins.
All right, my name is Tony Rogers. I am a math and science teacher at Anna Yates Elementary School. I want to make a plea to the board that you really closely examine our hiring and firing practices. And for a district who's about to lay off 7 people, how does it look if we offer a $5,000 signing bonus to incoming teachers? What message does that say to our veteran teachers? What message does that send to everyone else when we say we don't have these monies, but we are able to secure funds to give someone a signing bonus of $5,000 to come to our district? We just need to think about that. Some of our guiding principles, I know they're changing the principles now, but our guiding principles are that we vow to end classes and racist practices, and we create a sense of family. And I don't know if I really get family. And I said this the last time coming to these meetings, and I'm just being honest. And it's important that we really look at these things, and this is not about any particular person, but when we talk about numbers and we talk about positions, we're actually talking about human beings that we're moving around. And so I think if we are going to do these things, that we need to be fair about this. How is it possible that our VP was able to tell someone that these women were going to be laid off, they're not going to be here next year months ago? How is that people overheard that there were going to be many layoffs months ago? How is that possible? So if these layoffs are based on these financial numbers, how is it possible for people to know about this months ago? And so if we're going to lay off people, we need to be fair with this process, and we need to be humane. And that's all I'm asking, is that we please examine our hiring and firing practices. Anna Karita Allen's position was changed, it was rewritten, and she left. Then that position was rewritten, and someone was brought in with that same position that was rewritten out at the beginning of the year. We need to examine our hiring and firing practices. There have been other people who have been brought into this district who are still gainfully employed, they haven't been pinked. And so I think that's really, we need to really, I can't examine that, I don't have access to it. Please examine our hiring and firing practices. This is not personal to anyone else. I know there are teachers who feel intimidated, they are afraid to come out and speak, but I know we're all asking each other for recommendations to leave. So if something is impacting your entire teacher corps, and your veteran teachers and your veteran employees, people who have dedicated decades of their life, some people who have, their children have gone here from kinder through 12th grade. Not only are they teachers, but they obviously believe in our district because they let their kids get educated here from K through 12. So they gave a major part of their lives, their service and their children. And what message does that send out to other teachers, other people who probably plan to retire here? And if you get at the end of the totem pole, well, if we decide to write you out, we're just going to write you out. Let's please be humane and think about that. Please examine closely, scrutinize our hiring and firing practices, but how can we offer a $5,000 sign-on bonus to an incoming teacher and tell everyone else we're giving them the boot?
Mr. Rogers?
Audrey Miles, kindergarten, Anna Yates. This is very emotional for me. So I'm gonna have to read this because I can't do it. I don't know what we would do without the dedication and the support of Ms. Hessel, Ms. Plaha, and Ms. Saini. Ms. Saini and Ms. Plaha have been with us for almost 17 years. They are a viable part of our classroom routines, They are not aides, they are our partners in education. They support us daily with our children. We are able to provide small group instruction. We are able to do pullouts. Students who would have not be achieving right now are achieving because of Ms. Plaha and Ms. Sani. We have a student who's from Yemen. We have students who speak Arabic, who don't speak English, who came in as kindergartners, who were not performing. We sat down as partners in education and provided goals for our students to work together. Ms. Plaha and Ms. Sani are essential to that. They are also part of our community where they work with our parents and they support us by translating for us. This district promised to keep cuts away from the classroom. How can we continue to perform as a high-performing district and make the gains by lessening our achievement and taking out essential parts of our staff? How can we say, just last year or 2 years ago, we were one of a few districts who were reaching the achievement gap, and that is because of the support and services of aides like Ms. Sini and Ms. Plaha. Ms. Hessel is not just a yard supervisor. She is an essential part of our community. She works with PTO, she works with parents. She works with our peace program. She supports anything you ask her to do. She works overtime and comes in extra. She supports the district as a dedicated employee, going over and beyond the call of duty to support our children. Peacemaking with students who have behavior problems, she supports us on the yard. She has a communication with those students far better than anyone. She can stop problems. She can support. I don't see how we can function as a district if we're going to cut out the gut of our program. We can't continue to reach achievement and become the high-performing district that we want to be if we're gutting our programs. Please think with heart and passion that these people are not just trash to throw out, but a viable part to be kept, a central part of our educational process. Thank you.
Good afternoon, board members, Ms. Dr. Rubio, and our family. My name is Tawhida Wren, and I'm the 5th grade teacher at Annie Yates Elementary School. And I'm just going to read my concerns. I'm not going to really add much of what has been said, because what has been said is the truth, and you don't need to add to the truth, it's just the truth. But we want to appeal to you to hear our truths, so you may consider, and hope that you will, rehire these people that are our family members. I'm writing this letter to express my outrage about the termination of the 2 ELD instructional assistants, Ms. Sini and Ms. Plaha. I work with these wonderful women, and I've worked with them for over 8 years. And I know their caliber, I know their expertise, and I know their love and dedication to our children. I've seen it firsthand. I'm also saddened by the release of Ms. Pamela William Hessel, our PE instructor and yard supervisor. And we were both, as we are now, in tears when she shared with me what had happened and asked me for a letter of recommendation. Yard supervision is a crucial area on our campus, since we have more students now than we have space for. And she helps orchestrate the safety of our children, and we appreciate that, and we don't want to lose that from her and from our school. We need to hire people to do the yard duties, so why not her? Why not, we don't have anyone to handle that position right now. So why not have Mrs. Hessel continue to do the work that she does very well? She knows the children, she loves the children, this is her community, her daughter went to school here, and she has invested in this community, and we should also invest in her. Ms. Sini and Ms. Plaha have dedicated their lives as Anna Yates ELD staff and have made learning for our children equitable, accessible, manageable, easy to get to, and comprehensible through their dedication and hard efforts. Can you hear me? All right. One of the teachers shared that she has been working here at Annie Yates for over 17 years and planning to retire, but now she's got the boot. So what are her next steps? She has to figure it out, and that's not fair. How do we support those professionals that I'm speaking about that have supported our school over a decade? Ms. Plaha sent her 2 children to Annie Yates from K through graduation at the Emery High School. And she has a daughter that has graduated from UC Berkeley, and partially to our credit, right? The parents believe, and these parents believe in our schools. They have demonstrated this over and over and over. She's not only worked here, but she sent her loved one, her daughter, and her daughter's here. To fire these supportive staffs without compensating them, say with another job or by not referring them to another site, is hard to imagine. We have not supported those who have supported us. We are hiring and firing at the same time and giving signing bonuses, but we are losing some of our best. So to help alleviate this problem, we must come together and find ways to save our family and to keep our family. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wren.
My name is Connie Bai, kindergarten teacher, Anna Yates. Kind of nervous, though. This year, I had a very challenging class. I had several students with special needs. Over 50% of my students were ELs, English language learners, and a lot of social, emotional, behavioral, and learning challenges that arose from having a transitional kindergarten class. So that's the background. Ms. Plaha was my instructional aide, and she really helped me navigate my students towards success. She was able to assist me in pulling small groups for differentiated learning, one-on-one assistance for individualized support, and just so much more. I have also used her multilingual expertise to assist me in parent-teacher conferences, phone calls. We had a lot of just behavioral problems, and she was able to help me just navigate everything that was happening in our classroom. She really not only serves our English language learners, she helps with all of our struggling students, because sometimes the resources aren't there for us teachers. So we use what we have, and she was my resource within the classroom, and I was able to use her. In the past, I was a student teacher, and I've also worked with Ms. Siney and Ms. Hessel. And they have really, last year I was a long-term substitute, and the behavioral challenges I had in that classroom, Ms. Hessel was able to really guide me as a teacher, and basically whenever I needed that support, she was there for me. So that way I was able to help these students achieve success, because that's really what we're there for. We're there as, we didn't become teachers for the salary. We became teachers so that we can support these kids in their education. Ms. Plaha, Ms. Siney, Ms. Hessel, they have so much dedication, and just dedication to not only, Anna Yates, but our school district. And I didn't even know personally that they had children that had attended Anna Yates and our school district. That just shows you how much they really care and how much they want all of our students to succeed and how much they want this school district to succeed. Our students really, I understand the cuts, but they're the resources that we have to help support these students. They're there already, and there are partners in education, and we really need them here at Emory Unified. We really need them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bai.
My name is Mary Magruder, and I feel I have to support my fellow coworkers, classified staff. We have parents here, community members, teachers. Ms. Plaha, Ms. Siney, Ms. Hessel, her children went through our school. My children went through this school. I'm a community member, and I work. I started volunteering, so I found my passion for our school district. I just feel like this is abrupt. We don't make that much of an impact on the district. We do not. So please consider as you cut. I've been through layoffs. I came back to the district. I'm hoping that there's some ways you can keep us, keep our people. This is really decimating our unit. We have women who are teachers from their country. They came over and started work here. They were hired to support and teach, and they do that for our ELD students. Many of our students stay, those ELD students stay with our district. They go on to graduate and go into higher learning. I want you to please reconsider Ms. Paha, Ms. Honey, Ms. Hessel, and the other staff members, because the workload, where would the workload go? Please consider what you're doing. We want to keep a sense of family and community. Please consider.
Thank you, Ms. Magruder.
Good evening. My name is Misha, and I'm a former student at Anna Yates, and I'm here to support our instructional staff. As an English language learner, I want to stress the importance of having the support of a teacher when you first enter a school, when you're an immigrant, when you've come here and you don't know what you're doing. Your parents have come here and they can't support you. The impact that that teacher or that mentor has on you will last a lifetime. I know that because I can speak from experience. Now, I know that a lot of the staff members have talked to you about the importance and their one-on work with the staff members, but as a student, I've told you what the importance is, but I also want to think back and in my job in city government, what we do is I look at budget all the time, and we have to make cuts. And I know that you have to make these important decisions because to be fiscally responsible, you have to make these choices. But if I'm going to look at cuts that I need to make wherever I go, the most important aspect of any employee is someone that has multiple values. I guess someone that has cross-training that you can use in one department and then you can use them in another because they have the qualities to support you when you need them. And I feel like with classified staff, you get the best for your buck because if you're paying administrative staff, you're cutting lower level positions to keep administrative positions, you can't function because it just doesn't make sense because first you're cutting positions where these people do work in multiple areas. So for example, if you're an instructional aide, if you're one day your services are needed for translation, but maybe tomorrow you might be needed in the classroom because you need to alleviate a teacher to attend a meeting. Can you call on a full-time teacher to do that at that time? No, because they have their own responsibilities. Now, if you could use instructional staff to release teachers for meetings, I'll just give you an example. Would you, at that time, hire a substitute for the day, which will actually, essentially, probably cost you more to do that? Whereas you have instructional staff that can cross over into many areas and assist in various areas of the school. And being that this school district is looking at increasing enrollment, I don't think that you can increase enrollment if you don't have enough services for the students. That doesn't mean just ELD services, it means all services. But if you're looking to grow, you have to retain what you already have. And especially at a level where the income is not high versus hiring someone at a higher position, qualified, and where you have to pay more. So you have to exhaust more money to do the same level of work. The second thing I want to mention is that I understand that there's a coordinator who coordinates the ELD staff. So if you are looking at cutting the instructional aides, what would the coordinator do? Would she or he be responsible for doing all the work that the two instructional staff was doing at the cost that person comes at? So I just want to understand that if there is one person who coordinates the program, and once the school district grows, is that person going to be responsible for supporting our English language learners or just our students in general? I just haven't quite grasped how that would work. But if moving forward, if I'm looking at the local control and accountability plan, I understand that you've proposed adding a full-time person to teach ESL classes. So again, that would come at an additional cost. And based on what I've heard today, it seems that everyone is quite satisfied with the instructional aides that are present, because as immigrants themselves, I don't think that anyone else could really understand what parents go through of a child that's an English language learner, because they're able to relate to that person. They're able to relate to a variety of demographics. They've been here obviously 15 years. I'm sure the demographics have changed significantly over time. You might have one population at one time and another population another, but they've served their purpose and they continue to do their job and they love their job. So I urge you to reconsider your decision tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, board members, I myself have had the privilege, my name is Harjeet Singh. I've had the privilege of being a student at Annie Yates at the middle school and the high school and graduating and going on to UC Davis and UC Berkeley to finish with 2 degrees. I can say I'm here to support the classified staff. These 2 individuals right here and everybody else have enabled me to further my education. I can tell you personally of several situations with 5 of my own friends who are doing very bad in school. With their guidance, they have gone on to graduate, have had successful careers, multi-million-dollar businesses, and other things as well. Not only do they provide for just the Indian individuals who go to this school, they provide for other people as well. You can say Hispanics, anybody. Throughout the years, they've honed their skills so well that it's very fundamentally easy for them to help these students now. Whereas if you hire somebody new, you have to pay them less, or if you hire somebody good, you have to pay them more, you have to teach them. My friends, I can come forth if you guys want to postpone this until next week and bring 100 students who have graduated through their hands and have gone on to college because of these 2 individuals right here. So throughout the years, classified staff and other individuals have been reduced. These few that are left have picked up their weights on their shoulders and gone on to do work that was not initially their duty. Again, I tell you, if you fire them, who's going to take care of their duties? Your SAT scores were terrible when we used to go to the school. When I started off, the SAT scores were terrible as a child. With their guidance, the SAT scores have gone up for all students as English as a second language. There used to be another individual named Dr. Hambright who used to work here. They helped him and his students go on to go to college. Different universities, different places. They have successful careers today. And to be honest, a lot of these students are still in the Bay Area in Emeryville. I personally, throughout the years, because I thought that this day might come, not only this, but other things, I like to be oriented with the school. Whenever I have a chance, I come around. I know my older teachers. There's only 2 of them left. All the great staff has been reduced. Annie Yates used to be a great school. Today, I can't say not so much. But it's not partly due to them. It's partly due to you guys reducing staff, getting new teachers. The old teachers that have been implemented here have been lost. They no longer, the new teachers have to come in. They have to learn how to help the students. But the old teachers already know, and you guys keep on recycling, firing people, hiring people. This is not a good thing to do. I rest my case. That's all I have to say. Have a great day.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Do we have any other public comment on this item?
Sorry. This individual right here, my neighbor. In Emeryville, he's had a meeting with 5 of my friends, and they also graduated. Who are first, careful.
We have one other public comment, it looks like.
My name is Todd Britt, and I've been a resident of Emeryville for 5 years. And I have the pleasure of knowing the Plaha family, which is the reason I'm here tonight. I have seen Ms. Plaha's children go through UC Berkeley and UC Davis. And I'm concerned when I hear about the layoffs of the staff. It seems like it's really going to affect the morale of the community and the staff. And I believe that the fiscal impact will be much more negative with the layoffs than it will be if you find other ways to balance the budget. I think that's all I'll say for right now.
Okay, thank you for coming, Mr. Britt. All right, last call on public comment on this item. Okay. It's time for board discussion, and Superintendent, do you have some?
Just some additional
thoughts?
information from the board and for everyone who came out. Thank you for your comments. Just wanted to.
And if I could
Yeah.
ask you to address some of the comments that were raised about coverage and what plans, if any, that you would have to cover the duties of the various people who are.
I don't know if I can do that before I meet with CSEA. We've agreed to meet on that topic on Friday, but let me see. Let me address that as much as I can.
At least to the extent you can.
Okay. Just for some additional information for everyone and for the board, the signing bonuses for hard-to-fill single-subject science and math teachers are not from school district funds. We have been analyzing this problem for quite a while, and just a reminder to everyone, we did lose a very large grant last June, and we did keep staff on after losing that grant. We are working hard to continue to provide many services and programs for the students. We have continued to maintain class sizes at 20-to-1 in the K-3. We have a full-time librarian, a full-time art, science, and next year PE and music positions, all to support the students and staff. So I really do wish we could do it all. I have to ensure that we are in a strong financial position, and in order to have a viable district, it is critical that we make these changes. In terms of coverage, again, that's a little difficult, President Affelt, because I have agreed to discuss that first with CSEA this Friday, so I would be hesitant to do that publicly before respectfully sitting with them.
Okay, board member thoughts or comments on this item?
Yeah, I'll say my piece. Although I understand that we need to make some changes financially to ensure that we can continue our district. In the 3 years that I've sat on the board, I have always expressed my concern about bandwidth here. I cannot vote for this until I see what that plan is. So if that needs to wait until after you meet with CSEA, then I would personally like to see this come back until that discussion can be had with the board.
The difficult part, board members, is that we have, our conversation with CSEA is based on the actions tonight, and just a reminder that our next item on the agenda is also based on these recommendations.
Member Dice?
I'm in a similar position. I think, and I'm just looking at the topic for the next item, there are some clear pieces that I think we learned from this particular topic, and I do think there's some things that aren't called out to make it a little bit more transparent. So I would like to see it come back at the next meeting. I do know that that's probably a surprise, shock and awe, but I do think it's really important to have enough information to capture it. I'm not, and you know, frankly, it may not mean a whole heck of a lot. I mean, honestly, but I think I've been sitting in this seat for a really long time, and this is not really my. I just think that there's an opportunity to display another set of another piece of data that would be helpful for me. And it's not necessarily, I mean, it definitely has and I agree with member, with Joy, I'm gonna say mama over there, but I do think it's part of making sure we have what we need. And I do know that even in our previous meeting, numbers mean a lot. Long-term, short-term, but numbers mean a lot. And I also know that it's really important to consider all the pieces And I know there's some limitation in what we can do publicly. And I mean, I think that's absolutely respectful for everybody involved. But I would like to perhaps get a closed session. I mean, that's just my recommendation, to have a closed session to further discuss this. And if that's a special meeting, I mean, I think many of us will make make that time to do it. But again, it may not mean anything. I mean, this may be what it is, but I do think it's helpful to be considerate about our timing. We do have the next item, which I do know, and my concern is absolutely that we are even having to do a third interim. But I know that we have a deadline of June 1 for that. So I know our next regular board meeting is 2 weeks from today. So that gives us that window. I don't know from a budgeting or, from a planning standpoint, but that's just me offering a whole lot. I don't know how the rest of the board feels and president, but I just wanted to offer my thoughts that I feel like I need a lot more. I didn't realize I needed so much more, but I need a lot more. So that's all.
I will just, and I don't, the only thing I can offer to the board is that this has been an ongoing heavy analysis for quite some time. I did alert staff last summer that I saw this potentially arising based on looking at the budget. I don't have further data to provide to the board, closed session or open session, so I would strongly urge the board to take action tonight.
Do we have other comments? I've got some comments, but I don't
Go
know.
ahead if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I think the district, people sometimes take for granted that we have continued to invest in the classroom and in this district. We kept our schools open 180 days when most districts in the state cut back. We kept our library open. We have school nurse. We have a science teacher at elementary school. These are things that most schools and districts in the state don't do. And these investments, we have a wellness center. We have a very strong wellness program. So these investments they're costly, and we are running a deficit overall. And we do have to adopt, not tonight, but certainly by June 1, a third interim that gets us to positive certification. And we're not at positive certification right now. We're negative certification, which means we don't have enough money to be operating in 3 years, and then we get the state receivership, and we don't want to go back there. So we do need to act by June 1st and figure out what are the most strategic cuts that we can make in order to make third interim to positive certification. We're not going to increase enrollment between now and the end of May. I think we all know that. The one piece of information that we will be getting tomorrow is the May revise. Folks who don't follow state budgets like I do in education know what the May revise. We look at our new income that came in, and they revised the budget, and sometimes that goes down. This year it's going to go up. It's going to go up. We don't know how much it's going to go up, per student. We'll know a little more tomorrow, and we also know that everyone who's not in education in Sacramento, Health and Human Services, welfare, those people are saying, don't put all of that in education, give us some of that. So even whatever the governor proposes tomorrow isn't necessarily what's going to happen come June, right? So, but we will have a little more information, and we will get some more money. But it's not going to close. It's not going to cover $200,000 plus, which is sort of what we need to get to positive certification. So it's not going to get us there all the way, and as Melody says, maybe it's not going to change anything. But I would like to hear more about how we're going to cover the the very staffing pieces and holes that are going to be created by the cuts. I can just tell you my own thinking is the I mean, the instructional aides, that's the closest thing to taking stuff out of the classroom. So for me, if there's a priority, that's where I would start to try to keep anything, if we can at all. And we are hiring a new PE teacher next year, and I want to honor Ms. Hessel's service with the district for really carrying a load above and beyond what we should have expected of her. But our students need to have full-time, fully certificated PE teacher, and I will just leave that there. But those are my sort of thoughts at this point, and I think maybe it does warrant a closed session discussion, but I think you can have some preliminary conversations with CSEA or some coverage or whatever, but I think you can provide us with some more information about how we're going to cover, and we'll have a little, hopefully a little more money from May Revise, and it may not change anything at the end of the day, but we've got another board meeting to try to figure this out fully and finally. Those are my thoughts.
So I think I'm very troubled by the cuts in general, but I've always kind of felt that was sort of the district plan. We talked about it tonight. The whole point of co-location is to eliminate staffing, right? I kind of trying to wrap my head around that. But I also feel like I've been in different meetings, because I feel, I usually spend my time up here talking about things that weren't done, but I felt that we've had a lot of discussion on this, and a lot of discussion, so I understand that we can never have too much, but I do feel, I want to second what Dr. Rubio said, is that has happened. I am troubled by the lack of information. I would like to know what this equates to dollar-wise, and I don't see that on the...
It's between, Doris Sue can correct me, but I believe it's between $450,000 and $500,000. Doris Sue, am I in the right range?
Well, I think it'll be covered in the next item. If
Yeah.
Is that right?
I believe
And
believe so.
we're gonna
I believe
move-
it's $450,000 to $500,000.
Okay, and then, I'm sorry.
494,000.
Okay. And then, so all of these people are full-time that we're talking about, all 7 positions were full-time? So 7.5-hour days for instructional assistants?
No, they're not all instructional assistants.
And so that still equates to 1 FTE?
I believe the way we do it in HR, which is normal for districts, is it equates to 1 FTE, 1.0.
Well, yeah, okay.
The IA positions are aligned with the teacher positions, with 6.5 hours being a full day. The other positions, the other classified positions are 7.5 hours for a 1.0 FTE, but they are all 1.0 FTEs on the books.
Okay, that's not how I'm used to seeing it, so. And so, and I think I had other much more technical questions, but I think I think given that this doesn't sound like it's going forward, I think I'm okay holding off. So, are we up against any timelines as far as notice is concerned?
It does affect us financially. All employees in this situation are to be given 60 days notice. We are already looking at going partially into July. So yes, this will have a financial impact.
Member Merriam,
Yes,
any comments?
I do have a couple comments, President Affelt. First things first, I think we do owe the community further discussion, albeit in whatever means. Secondly, what I had kind of just one thing is the difficulty of pulling all the information into one blanket statement or blanket action, and where each of these have a special place in the community. And I think with that, it's difficult to say yay or nay on that one statement. So, and then to supplement that is how are these responsibilities going to be divvied up amongst new staff or existing staff? So those are the kind of the outstanding questions that I have pertaining to this issue.
Okay. I mean, I think I'm not hearing support for a motion at this time. I'm sensing an understanding on the board that we need to get this resolved before the end of the month. The board would like some further information about, as Member Merriam said, what how the duties would be covered and the impact, and or not, because we can get by without that, or because someone else will take it up who's sort of current staff, or are we going to have to hire some new part-time staff? Or I mean, I think there's we need a little more information on that and the fiscal impact of that. But I think there's a general understanding that what you're proposing needs to be done in a significant way. Not exactly, we're not ready, I guess, to support all of this right now at this moment. But
Okay. I guess one question pertains to the next item. Do we want to pull the next item?
I think we have
do-
to.
I think we have
do
to.
we?
I
mean,
don't,
well,
I don't think, well.
Well, I don't
Or do
think
you
we
wanna-
can
or you
move
wanna
it,
discuss it?
but don't we want to discuss it and understand what the implication, if we adopted this, what does that mean for our budget?
Yeah, I actually would inform the conversation, so maybe we should leave it on and discuss it.
See why we wouldn't though, too. 'Cause-
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, from what this current, the current plan, if I'm right, from based on assumptions that would be in terms of what was adopted, what would have been adopted. right?
Correct.
So this is gonna be projections out. I mean, maybe covered high points maybe, but I do think the numbers are definitely not what the numbers are, because there's been no action by the board.
Right, so I think it's helpful to look at these numbers, because this is the proposal.
totality, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
it's,
That sounds fine.
But
Yeah.
we're not ready to adopt it.
Okay, so it's just a
Okay.
review.
Yeah, but it does give us a sense that, well, if we didn't do any of this, maybe you can do a quick calculation, Dora Sue. If we rejected the cuts, what's your back of the envelope? How does that change the multi-year projection? Add in 450,000, 90,000 a year. So I think it's worth
Okay.
the education of the
Okay.
board.
Let's
and the community.
continue then.
Okay?
Yeah.
Does that work for you? I know.
I just need to go to the closed room.
Okay.
Need a break.
All right. We're going to take a recess for pregnancy purposes of 5 minutes. Will that work?
Pregnant
Okay.
pause. Sorry, who's pregnant?
Baby's kicking my bladder, I gotta go.
Who's pregnant? I wonder, look.
Okay, thank you.
Call this meeting back to order. We're on action item 3. It's no longer effectively going to be approval, but discussion of proposed third interim report on the 14-15 budget. Dr. Rubio, you want to introduce the item?
Sure, thank you. Good evening again. Oops, am I on? Good evening. Good evening again. The purpose of this item is to present the third interim report by Dorsu. Dorsu, thank you very much.
To some extent, I think so. Because she has this something positive certification. But yours up here, then yours shouldn't have changed or different. Okay. I think you're right. Should be some sort of. Although, the one difference might be she was able to give 1 year to piggyback off some agreement that unified the state made. She was not custodian salaries. It's down here. That might be why. There's some difference. No, I'm just saying the certificated salaries are different.
Oh, certificates.
Yeah, I had it at 4307 here. And last time it was 4292.
She might have just found something she cleaned up. They're pretty close, right?
They're close, but I'm just, everything's different.
She keeps,
Can you make it a full screen, Ms. Tamery?
I'm just wondering what we're certifying.
You can ask her why I changed it. She knows. She may recall.
I can make that bigger.
So good evening, everybody. I'm here tonight to present the third interim. Lisa, can I have the full page? I don't want to do it line by line. Sorry. I want to show the whole page, not going by line.
Dorsu, I don't think you'll be able to because you're using a PowerPoint template. You have to tap real fast on the arrow keys. You can do it.
You will?
Just keep tapping, and the full page will fill out.
Just tap, tap.
Okay,
Oops,
all
okay,
right.
sorry.
Okay, so we are here tonight to evaluate the district financial condition, and in this case, we're not going to approve the third interim. And then the budget goals, we're trying to maintain a balanced budget for the 14-15 fiscal year, and we will be using the third interim to help guide the budget development for the fiscal year 15-16. Financial considerations. We need to develop a plan to deal with the district's ongoing structural deficit. And what we've been doing for the so many years, we've been using the one-time funding in the ending fund balance to use to balance the budget. We have to stop eliminate the reliance of the one-time funds in the ending fund balance used to balance the budget. Unless we can eliminate the structural deficit, I'm recommending we should now beginning to increase the reserve toward the target of 8 to 10%. Right now, we are doing it at a 4% minimum required level. And then we should continue to closely monitor the enrollment, the ADA, and also the state budget that could impact the district finances. And just to let you guys know, the third interim does not include the May revised. Let's look at the income side. On the LCFF, we have a total of $5.7 million. Federal income, $307,000. Other state income, $396,000. Local income, $2.9 million. And self-transferring $369,000 for a total of $9.6 million.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yes.
So how do we lose $130,000 from the SELPA?
We will touch on that on another screen when we look at the details.
Okay, so, but I'm accurate on that from the last time?
Yes, we
Okay.
will be seeing additional contribution of over 100,000 on the SELPA, yes. Okay, now expenditures. The certificated salaries, a total of $4.3 million. Classified salary, $1 million. Employee benefits, $2.1 million. Books and supplies, $337,000. Contract services, $1.8 million. Capital outlay, $90,000. Indirect costs, negative $29,000 for a total expenditure of $9.7 million. So if you go the total revenue minus your total expenses, you will have a negative of $58,000. Go back to the screen, it said expenditures. Oh, you want me to do it?
Keep going. Back one more, I think.
Yeah. Okay, you see, we have a total expenditure of $9.7 million. If you use the total revenue minus your total expenditures, the difference is negative $58,000. Then you add on the transfer out of $1.3 million. Then the net increase in the fund balance is negative $1.4 million.
So again, this is different from the last time you showed it by $500,000, so that's going to be explained later on as well?
That's right.
Okay.
Last time, you are correct. We have a contribution in the range of $500,000.
Okay.
But this time, now the contribution becomes $654,000.
I'm sorry, but I was looking at the expenditures last time you presented. This was, total expenditures were 10.2 million?
Yes.
And now they're 9.7, so that's where I'm talking about the 500,000.
And then we will cover the expenditures in detail later on too.
Okay.
Yeah. And now let's go to the next slide, the fund balance. Then what you have from your net balance, you add it on to your beginning balance of the year. Then the ending projected balance for fiscal year 14-15 is $2.3 million. And here on this slide, it listed the components of the ending balance. And I want to point your attention to the line, it said $444,000. That is the 4% minimum required reserve. So now let's look into the details of the income side. And it listed the changes from the second interim to the third interim right now. And just to let you know, third interim, the cutoff is April 30th, 2015. So LCFF, there is a slight increase, $221. Federal income, $5,505 increase. But the local income, we have a decrease of $133,000. So the $221 is come from the special ed property tax transfer. And then the increase of the $5,000 for the federal money is spelled out in here. It's come from mainly from special ed and also Title II. The local income, we have an increase of $16,000 on the unrestricted portion, but there is a decrease of $149,000 on the restricted portion. And mainly of that $149,000 decrease is from the reduction of the SELPA transfer money from the special ed.
And can you explain why such a big reduction between second and third interim?
Because what happened is we have kids that reside in Emeryville, but they were taken to another school district for services under special ed. And we call that in special ed, we call that placement out. So it's costly to send kids out to another school district to provide them special ed services. And this is the reason why these reduction was taken out from the SELPA entitlement.
And why didn't that show up in the second interim and the first interim, and why is it only showing up now?
The way that it was done by SELPA, and because of this time, I sat down with the SELPA director, and next year in the fiscal year 15-16, I probably will be budget some kind of transfer out when I do the budget development. But the normal practice under the SELPA budget, they do not include a in and out placement when they send out the budget information. Not until the P1. And the P1 normally come in after the second interim. So I had a discussion with her, and because of our school district financial situation, I do require her to give me the numbers as soon as she knows. And she said starting in next school year, she will do that.
Okay, so when you're setting the budget last June and we're approving it, you didn't know what this appraisement was going to be?
That's right,
and
because
you didn't know really until just recently, you're
yeah,
saying?
normally they would not know.
Even though that's for this year?
For this year.
Current year. That
So-
seems odd that we get notified so late in the year about a, for us, significant expense.
That's why I set up a meeting with her to have that kind of discussion. So for this year, what happened is, during the budget adoption for 14-15, and under her spreadsheet, there was no mention of in and out placement. And the in and out placement information will come in through the P1 allocation. And this time, the P1 allocation already, it comes in after the second interim already have been done.
Okay, well, appreciate your efforts to try to get that information as soon as you can from them, and it does make sense to put some kind of placeholder in the budget during budget development.
That's right. And actually for next year, 15-16, I probably will budget at the worst case scenario. Instead of putting the whole entire amount what they said on the spreadsheet, I will at least talk to Karen, our special ed director, having another understanding the likelihood of getting a outplacement. Then in that case, I will at least put a number there instead of overstating our SELPA transfer.
Okay?
Okay, so expenditures. After update, the expenditures are lower by 517,000. And here's the breakdown. Oh, go back. Here's the breakdown for the 517,000. It makes up with an increase of 14,000 from the certificated salaries, a reduction of 194,000 from the classified salaries, and a reduction of 140,000 from employee benefits, increase of books and supplies 39,000, contract and services, and a decrease of 41,000, a decrease of 195,000 on the capital outlay. Indirect or direct support costs is an increase of $50 to make up the total reduction of 517,000 on the expenditures. And you can see mostly on the classified salary and employee benefits, the reason for the decrease is in 14-15, we do have a one-time ability to put some of the custodian salary and benefit out of the general fund into the RDA, which is in Fund 25. So we made a journal entry moving all these custodian salary and benefits out from the general fund to move it to a separate fund, which is Fund 25, and that is the reason why you're seeing a big reduction of the expenditure in the classified salary and the employee benefits.
So, that's not, the third column, the decrease, 194 classified salaries and 140,000 employee benefits, that's the custodial move?
Mostly because of this journal entry.
Okay, that's not the cuts that we were talking about
No,
last
it
time?
is not.
Because that's for next year, potentially.
This is strictly related to fiscal year 14-15.
Right. And just to clarify for folks who might not know what the RDA fund is, that's Redevelopment Authority, I guess, agency funds.
Agency.
The school district gets some funds that came through the city redevelopment agency, and those are capital funds. Those are not to be used for operations in general, for construction, maintenance, or not maintenance, but maybe deferred maintenance or big capital building things. However, LA Unified got some special legislative dispensation for at least this year that allows not just LA but all districts to use that RDA fund to fund custodial. So for this like one-time shot, we get to take some of our capital and put it in operations.
Yeah. The RDA money is strictly used for the purposes of school facilities or construction. So now, let's look at the contributions. These are the programs that need the general fund support. For special ed, $533,000. The ongoing maintenance is $111,000. Emory F Fund, $9,000. So a total of $654,000. This slide shows you a summary version of the multi-year projection, but there is another detail on the multi-year projection that we attached to the board package. And on the multi-year projection, I would like to point out that in this case, in the year fiscal year 15-16, the assumption was based on the cuts that we have on the 7 FTE, okay? So in this case, these numbers will change. So, but then the 14-15 fiscal year, we can look at it right now. Total income is $9.6 million, expenditures $11 million. So the expenses are over the income by $1.4 million. And part of the reason is a one-time transfer out of the RDA money from the general fund to Fund 25. Because again, the RDA money is strictly only for construction or facilities purposes. They should not be staying in general fund because these are restricted money. So I just want to point you out the $1.4 million negative right here mostly is it's got to do with the $1.1 million that taken out from the RDA money that taken out from the general fund to the Fund 25. Then what you have at the end of the fiscal year 14-15, we projected an ending fund balance of $2.3 million.
And Doris, so just to make sure everyone's clear, so if this slide assumes if the 7 positions were eliminated, according to what you have there, we're still going to be overspending by $800,000 next year?
We are still on this slide, it shows you we are still deficit spending all 3 years, period. And then in 15-16, again, the projection, these numbers are based on the assumption that we are going to cut the 7 classified positions. But at the same time, we are adding on 2 certificated positions and 2 part-time yard supervision. That is the number based on.
So
let
we
me
still
re-
have an ongoing structural
So let me
deficit.
repeat. So in 15-16, the assumptions that based on are the elimination of the 7 classified position, but the additional of 2 certificated position, PE and music teachers. And also we added on 2 classified part-time yacht duties. And
Part-time.
yes, part-time. And also a reduction of 100,000 in the operational budget to make into this number in 15-16. And 16-17, the assumption there is a further 90,000 reduction in the operational budget in 16-17. And most of them, it comes to, I'm projecting there should be a savings in the repair budget when we move into the new facility in 16-17.
Yeah, I was at a facilities, sort of the future of California facilities funding conference on Friday in Sacramento with a number of state officials, and that point was discussed, that the more you have newer facilities, the less you have to spend on maintenance and operations, and take out of your operations budget, right? And it was sort of analyzing the extent to which low income and low wealth districts disproportionately have to have older facilities because they don't have the capital funding to build the new stuff, and they're spending more of their general operations on maintenance instead of having the capital, which we're lucky to, the capital money to build a new facility to reduce your maintenance cost. Anyway, it's a...
So, but then, again, all 3 years, they are still in deficit spending, even with these assumptions. So just repeat what I just said regarding the deficit spending. So now so now let's look at how much of the deficits, how much of the structural deficit spending that we have in 14-15. So if you go through all these calculations, the bottom line is the bottom of the slide is at $188,000. That is our structural deficit spending for fiscal 14-15.
But that's with the
That's-
ability to use the RDA money for custodial.
Yeah, that is based on the journal entry that we did to move the custodian salary to the RDA Fund 25.
Does this include the cuts as well? Is this figure affected by that or no?
I don't think so.
No.
This is 14-15.
But remember, the
Oh, that's
cut's
right,
not
sorry.
going to come in until 15-16.
I'm sorry, go
So
ahead, yeah.
this is based on what the
Current
current
year.
staffing we have. But then the only thing that I did is the journal entry that moved out the custodian to
I got it, I'm
Fund
sorry.
25.
Yeah, so that's, yeah, on
So-
a normal year, add 330,000 basically to the bottom line.
That will be the next page.
So we were overspending this year by about $500,000 still.
That's
Before
right.
you made that change.
So now let's look
There
at
you
the
go.
deficit spending in more detail, and that will cover part of the answer to part of your question. So now the third interim, we are projecting a structural deficit of 188,000. What happened if the custodian salary and benefits stay in the general fund, and we did not do that transfer to the RDA money? Then the deficit will be increased by another 364,000 to a total of 552,000. So now, you probably will be asking, how many additional ADA that we need to cover the deficit of the 552,000. So what I did is I went into the FigMac calculator and actually plot in if we are going to get additional 125 ADA for the high school students, and that will offset the $552,000 deficit. Or another way you can do it is to get another 135 ADA for the grade 4 to 6 to come into the school district in order to offset the $552,000. So just to let you know, different grade level, they do have different funding. So the reason why I do the high school first, because they have the most highest funding for the high schoolers.
Dorsu, I mean, yeah, this slide confuses me just because it gives us about $4,400 a student. I did the math on your, 132 and 552,000. We're getting twice that from the state per student. We're getting 8,100, 8,200. So I guess I'm not trusting the FICMAC calculator on this one, or maybe it's that those just the base dollars, and you're not calculating if those are unduplicated pupils under LCFF. In other words, they're not low-income or English learners, in which case we're going to get 20% supplemental more and another concentration factor of 50% on top of that. So I'm glad you did this analysis because I asked you to do it, but it seems to, I think we're getting more per pupil than $4,400.
Well, what I can do, I can look further into this, but then just to point out to you, the way the funding actually go, it doesn't really go by like you have funding per ADA is $8,000. Then you have 10 more ADA, then you just go 8,000 times 10. So it doesn't work out that simple like that.
It's supposed to.
Well, but there's additional cost for each additional student, and so it takes that into account. So we wouldn't close the gap because we had 132 new high school students. We wouldn't be able to fit them in all the classes. We'd have to have hire new teachers.
Yes.
And so there's a cost per student.
Right, but actually we do have space at the middle and the high school to add,
The calculator doesn't know that.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. We could put 50, probably 50 at the middle school. We could probably put 80 at the high school with no additional costs, because we got classes sizes of 12 at the high school in the calculator. So,
That's right.
so maybe that's it, that the calculator's just assigning costs to our revenues.
It could be a combination. It doesn't have to be saying all the increase that come from the high school or all the increase that coming out from the elementary school. It just gives you an idea. But then another thing regarding the unduplicated con, obviously if your ADA goes up, your enrollment goes up, and then your unduplicated con, it really affecting your supplemental and concentrate funding.
Yeah, so I mean, I would just assume if we wanted to add 100 students, I would want you to do the analysis of what's 100 students at our current 75%, is it, Superintendent, unduplicated count?
I'm sorry, I missed that question.
Are we at 75% unduplicated pupils?
Yes,
In total, yes.
Total?
to be
Yeah.
exact is 74.9.
Yeah.
75
So,
is close.
so that's the kind of assumption that maybe the calculator doesn't know, but what if we added 75 unduplicated and 25 non-unduplicated, and they were in classrooms that had the space, we didn't have to hire, what additional revenue would that bring in to cut into that deficit?
actually, when I do the Figma calculator, the way that I enter it, I actually go into the grade 9 to 12 and manually increase the ADA by 125. And at the same time, because I'm getting more ADA, I increase the enrollment by 132. And then the unduplicated count, I still stay at 75%, and that got increased. So somehow the total of the LCFF increased funding, it come to $557,000. But again, I will look into
Yeah,
further
okay.
to answer your question to see why it seems like it's not 125 ADA times the $8,000 ADA funding per ADA. It seems like it should be way more than enough to cover the 552,000.
Yeah, and
I
you know,
understand your question.
right,
I do.
yeah, and I think I even sent you an email or that I read an article in the paper this week saying,
Okay.
talking about the May revise and saying on average, the California per pupil average is 9,600 across the state. Now, I don't know how they figured that out, and that was all grade spans and all unduplicated, mixed up with all non, so, but it just seemed that 4,400 was somehow under counting, but, all right, let's
Okay. All
try
right.
to figure that out.
And then the fund balance, but on the multi-year, you're still seeing, even though we are in deficit spending, we're still able to meet the 4% required reserve in 14-15 and 15-16 and 16-17. So I'm not going to ask the board to approve the third interim. So here it is.
Okay,
Any questions?
yeah, other questions on the third interim? Do we have any public comment on the third interim presentation? It's available online? Oh, it is, yes, isn't it, Ms. Sue? It's online, it's an attachment to the agenda item.
What we're looking at on our screens, if you ever wonder why we're looking at the computer.
Yes, we're not ignoring,
It's the same
we're looking
thing.
at the,
We're not watching the Warriors score at all.
don't tell me, I am recording. Mr. Carver.
Good evening, President Hatfield, members of the board. My name is Brian Carver. This dealing with the budget and trying to get that right is one of the most difficult things that one of the top of the list of the thankless tasks that this board gets charged with. When we were here 2 weeks ago, if I'd had more time, I wanted to say something about that, how appreciative I am that there are 5 people who are willing to spend every other Wednesday night dealing with these kinds of issues. It's complex, it's difficult choices where often both of your options are bad, or you have a set of 3 bad options, and so and I don't know for sure, what all the right moves would be to get this back in the right direction. But one thing I wanted to ask is, there were a lot of members of the public here last time, and when they see reports like this, they haven't had the benefit of something like Board Member Dice's long tenure on this board or something like that, who can, see these acronyms and understand it, just right off. It'd be great to get a glossary with this document, or even just a footnote that said, what assumptions is the LCCF number based on, what enrollment number? That's the question that Board Member Merriam asked last time, that I was sitting out in the audience with that same question, wondering what's the number that this is based on. And so just a little more textual support would, I think, aid in the public's understanding anyway of what you're going through and what you're trying to sort out. On the, I didn't think I had this comment, but when you had the discussion of potentially adding new students, 5 years ago when my daughter started kindergarten, we tried having 4 kindergarten classes instead of the 3. and we filled them up. And I remember going to a presentation at the time where the board was presented material saying that actually the cost of a kindergarten teacher is such that you make money on a fully enrolled kindergarten class, even if you have to hire new staff, right? And so they tried it. They then decided to move the 6th through 8th grade over to Anna Yates, and there wasn't room to continue that experiment. But we had no trouble adding a 4th kindergarten class, and in a side conversation, our principal thought we might even be able to add 5 if the board chose to go that direction, right? So that's something I think you could think about, is building from the bottom up over a period of years. You might be able to get the 120 or however many it is that you need to start writing the finances. But I think I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you. And just to clarify, your side conversation with the principal, Mr. Cart, was back then or currently, recently? Okay, all right, thank you. Do we have any other comments from the public on this item? Okay, thank you, Ms. Sue. And, oops. I think we've skipped, or we've eliminated for tonight, item 4. And I've lost my agenda online, but I think we're on to board reports and announcements. Do we have any board reports and announcements?
Just that I will not be present at the next meeting.
Okay. Any other board reports?
So,
I'll do that.
oh, go ahead. So, I just want to sort of give a little bit of a comment here. I've been thinking a lot about the facilities that we're opening up soon, and I know the pool and the gym are scheduled to open up soon, and I think it's important that we start thinking about what those facilities will be called. And so I've kind of looked into it, and board policy is that we should appoint a committee that's made up of people from the city government, employees, community members, parents, and I think given that the ribbon cutting and the gym opening up is coming out soon, I think it's time that at next meeting maybe we want to think about appointing or the process, and I don't know what that would look like, to start that. And I think that you know, we have some opportunities in this district. We've had a lot of great people come through here, and so I think we have some opportunities to really make a statement by how we choose to name the facilities. I don't know if everybody else would be into that idea, but I think it's an excellent thought for naming the gym. So, and then eventually looking at naming the facility as well. So I'm going to talk to you offline, Mr. Affelt, and see what we can do to get that process going and see if the community shares that idea. So.
Okay, we will.
Oh, I have something to add to Christian's.
Well, we shouldn't have a discussion
Okay.
on an item that's just an announcement. But if it comes on as an agenda item here
Yes, most
or
definitely.
elsewhere, that'll be the time. Do we have another or any other board announcements or reports?
Oh, just real quick, we had a finance committee meeting, superintendent's finance committee meeting prior to this meeting, and just discussing the presentation that was to come before the board, and that's all that comes through my brain right now, unfortunately. But I think we will be having a meeting.
We did some preliminary analysis discussion around.
I'm glad you were there.
I was there.
But the brain is gone.
Yeah. Around some of these questions that were raised around how to split.
Oh, right.
How to analyze
Correct.
costs.
Correct.
At one K-12 versus separate.
Configuration. And I think the other was looking at the fact that we'd have another meeting another finance committee meeting, which we normally do once a month, but we'll have one prior to the next board meeting. So that was it.
Okay, thank you for 49. Calendar review, we have a regular board meeting on May 27th and a city schools meeting that will be June 4th at this location at 5:30. We are now adjourned to closed session. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Tamer.